Hey guys, look for timestamps at the bottom of this. I put together a really easy way for people to understand who got buffed and who didn't. Because if your character is on the list of the people who got buffed, maybe you're interested in finding out why they're buffed, or maybe you don't understand the language, and different people are going to go over in more detail, and I'll have some videos that go over certain characters that I've talked about or I've played more often in the last year. But in general, everybody who's competitive needs to read what the changes are so they can understand how they work, and they also need to understand stuff. But let's just talk about simplicity, right? So I want to talk about what I know and my opinion on those topics for people who are better, who are the winner or the loser of these patches, and who had no change. So the best way to look at this, even when we're looking at it right now, is that Dhalsim, in my opinion, is one of the best buffed characters from the patch, which is strange because he was one of the worst nerfed characters from the last patch, right? He received some strange, like, you know, the floating mechanics. Any special jump now has special combos you can do to it. I think max range V-Trigger 1, V-Trigger 1 cancel can't be V-reversaled by every character. We can walk through this. So this doesn't, see, it feels like, hey, like, you said Dhalsim got buffed. He got some of the best buffs in the game. Why are there only 2 sentences and 2 lines? But you know what gives? How can you tell me that this is a big deal? Okay, so the reason why I can tell you it's a big deal is because Yoga Gale can be canceled with Yoga Sansara, right? This is a big deal. This is a big deal. That's a big deal. And this V-Trigger 1 extended the hitbox forward on activation. That is huge. Basically, when I was talking to Furby, or I was talking to him through his chat or whatever, Sabin was saying that now they have to hold 100 to 200 damage, right? Now they have to hold 100 to 200 damage because they can't always just V reversal it unless you're like literally max range or something. You will for sure get hit by some of this, and allows you to actually hit them sometimes. I've seen some confirms even into Yoga Sansara, and it's actually been pretty cool. I actually really, really like that. So Dhalsim has been buffed in that sense, while other characters that were giving Dhalsim a lot of problems somehow are not buffed at all, right? You know, like they've been nerfed in some way. Some of these higher tier characters like Urien have been nerfed. And so in general, I think Dhalsim is one of the bigger benefactors. And so let's talk about Balrog, because we talked about him recently too. So for Balrog, we already mentioned that the forward throw, especially in the corner, he has increased hit stun, aka when you dash up, you're -2 instead of -1. So you can't hurt 4-frame characters the same way you used to. But to be completely honest, was I really worried about that scenario to win games? Not really. It is cheeky though, and online plus -1 might as well be 0. So that can happen. Dash straight, medium, and hard got decreased pushback on block. Again, it's not like you're getting punished every single time you do them. Sometimes you can't actually punish because you've spaced it out properly. So you can actually space out medium and hard dash punch properly to do it. They didn't just make a strange nerf where all of a sudden they're very punishable at every range. And I have that shown kind of in a real example on one of my other videos. And then Ed, if you scroll through this document, and I'll link it for everybody here, basically you can tell that Ed doesn't have any changes. Ed got a lot of changes in the last patch. Very good changes. Very good changes. So yeah, if you want to follow along on this PDF, I have that for you guys. You can check that out. I have Cammy as a nerf, but I haven't really talked about it too much. So as you can tell, there's been some things here that they nerfed. And what does this even mean? So for EX Spiral Arrow, they removed throw invincibility. Why did it even have throw invincibility? Right? That's the whole point. Why did this move even have throw invincibility? So sometimes when they nerf some of these things, you're like, oh, I didn't even know they had throw invincibility. That's crazy. That's crazy. Because if you do land that against a throw, you're looking at like crossing them up. Usually this would be a good corner option and you wouldn't actually have to do EXDP. I didn't even know it had throw invincibility, to be completely honest. And that's a big deal. EX Cannon Strike, what they're looking at here is they want to reduce like bad cannon strikes. But at this point, if you're a very competent Cammy player, you're getting those blocked and you're getting that plus frames. So I think in general, it's going to be easier to do V-Shift punishes on EX Cannon Strike. So that's technically a nerf, but I don't think it's that big of a nerf, but it is a nerf, right? EX Cannon Strike, recovery time on whiff. I don't know what the cancel version of lift combination is, but this is something that Problem X had talked about in one of his streams maybe 6 months ago. He was complaining or mentioning or highlighting that when she does a EX Cannon Strike into, I think this is supposed to be EX Cannon Strike, but I would like to believe this is the one where you can do a throw. The throw whiff is like impossible to whiff punish because you're thinking the block's going to happen and the attack's going to happen like immediately. And then by the time you're reacting, you're actually minus because it takes you so long to react because you're waiting for the block to happen. No block happens. Then you're trying to attack and then randomly you're in a mix up now. So they fix that because Akuma, when he misses his throw, it's pretty big. So I actually think that that's where that is. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but like, yeah, increased recovery time on whiff, right? So is this cancel version of lift combination? So I think what that means is like if you do a target combo one or something like that, I can't remember. For a Cannon Strike, you're looking at recovery time on whiff again. Again, this is like a quality of life thing. Sometimes you see a Cammy will whiff the Cannon Strike or EX or whatnot, or V-Trigger 1 or whatever, and you're just like unable to punish. This will just help people out. And so it doesn't hurt her offensively, in my opinion. Some things make her so that she can't cancel certain things. The projectile invincible timing, I like that they've extended it to 4 frames because to be completely honest, you can barely put a frame trap together on her with a fireball without her just, she could just mash it. So there's a lot of things where like her offense would have to be more measured, but it doesn't stop the fact that she is one of the best characters in the game, right? So at some point, it's almost like she got slightly nerfed, but not nerfed in any significant way, right? So let's take Cammy down and we'll put her as a loser. But she's loser like Balrog's a loser, right? Like they got nerfed, but they're not hurt. That's a big deal, okay? Let's talk about something minor. Let's talk about Falke. So for Falke, you can see here that Falke had a change to her V-Skill 2 meter gain. So for Falke's V-Skill 2 meter gain, let me bring this up. She has like a one-liner. It's like literally one line. Here it is. Increased VGauge from 60 to 100. That's awesome. People don't know why that's awesome, but I'll tell you why. You already have to spend 30 to 34 long frames activating it, hopefully after a very specific scenario, after a knockdown or after a target combo. It is not easy to get this ball out there and do something. And then after that, you have to activate it a little bit using one of your moves, one of your stick moves, etc., which will then ignite the ball, which gives you plus frames. A lot of the times when you try to do this move, especially if you're new to Falke, especially if you're new to even trying to use Falke as a counter pick, you're either getting hit while you do the move, which is building your V meter, or the thing never gets to activate because maybe you've gotten thrown randomly or like the situation just didn't work out. So if the situation does work out, you're going to get that 100 VGauge-Vgain. That's a big deal. Because honestly, I think Falke is one of the characters, especially with V-Trigger 2, that can get multiple V-Triggers in a game if you play it right. And if she's able to do more Psycho Mine activations where they land and they're able to increase the VGauge-Vgain, I think that will be good for Falke. Although, again, a pretty minor overall change. That's an overall minor change with major possibilities just in terms of like total V-Trigger per game, how early you might get the V-Trigger in every round, those things kind of. So let's talk about somebody who lost something, right? So Dan had a lot of issues this time. So Dan right here, let's go look at Dan. This is a whole lot of words here to basically said they let RB make history. They let RB do the infinite at CPT East Asia. So that will be the first and the last Dan Infinite you'll ever see because they changed one specific thing. So Godoken can now have a random chance of activating an enhanced version of the attack, which I do want to do something really fun maybe with the stream. I want to do this attack 1,000 times on stream to show you the exact percentage chance, at least within 1,000 rolls, that this actually happens. They sped up the Psycho style Bureten timing, which I believe this is the super. So I'm very happy about that because it needs to happen where the first frame is. And then this little stuff, this is whatever. This is like decreased pushback on block. So in my opinion, because the hype factor and everything, I think that he's a loser. In fact, he's a bigger loser than he should have been. And they want to keep him in that randomness. They don't want to see him in top 8. They don't want to see him doing that stuff consistently. What they want to see is this inconsistent character getting surprisingly good results. They don't want to see Dan in multiple appearances at CPT. Even though it was the first time we saw it, Dan was in 2 places in top 16 of East Asia. You got to admit that that was a big boon for Dan and Dan players, and it was quickly snuffed out by some of these changes. Laura got buffed a little bit with her V trigger too. She was able to, her V skill 2 is able to do more combos because they released some of the combo counter there, which is good. But I believe, here it is. Yeah, this is it. And then like, look at this, increase the combo count limit, increase the combo count gain, extended the hitbox forward, and lower the combo count limit, lower combo game. This is all positive stuff. May not actually change the tournament scene, but very interesting, right? V-Trigger 2 Volti Sprink, extended hitbox forward, knockback height midair, decreased combo count gain. That's pretty good. A lot of these things are really, really good for Laura, and their reasoning was they want to be able to create more opportunities with V-Skill 2, which obviously makes sense. If you see more V-Skill 2, like why would they have it in the game? And if nobody's using it, then there's something wrong. So a lot of the changes they were making are to make some of these moves more viable or at least practical. So they're not just for one desk combo that you watch once in the year and then you're done. It's not the intention. So yeah, a lot of these things will now lead to Volti Sprink into Thunder Spike into Hard Charge. So that basically you could be able to combo in the corner in a new fun kind of way. And I think that's great. So in my opinion, it's a buff in the sense that like, she didn't really receive any negatives, but her overall playstyle has more variability. She has more opportunities. She has more styles that she can do. And I think that's really, really good. Abigail got nerfed. When we talk about Abigail over here, look at this. So Abigail, his health was decreased, big L. His standing medium punch, extended the hurt box, that's a big L. Crouching medium punch, big L. And I've been wanting this since he was existing. This crouching medium punch is a cancer, because you were not able to really, I mean, in my opinion, you couldn't be able to whiff punish it, even though it looks like a move that should be whiff punished because he's reaching out, he's extending that lower back, right? You think that he'd be not as nimble as he looks, but now he isn't. Right now, he's more like a real person. So his jumping medium punch, the hurt box, again, he's not trying to make him some huge guy. Jumping hard punch, they extended the hurt box, for jumping mini kick. This was a big problem when you try to anti-air. So what this will nerf here is Abigail's that hold up forward in the corner. Sometimes you try to forward throw and then do a meaty. If you do meaty throw and they're holding up forward, your meaty throw will whiff and then he'll jump right over you. Now, because of this, I expect that would not happen as much, but we'll see what the end result would be, because it feels like sometimes you try to do it and you just get punished. That might be the reason, but I'm not entirely sure. Also, mid screen, sometimes you're just like, I adjust it often where I would do crouching hard punch with Balrog to stop it, but I'm sure other characters have trouble dealing with the jumping medium kick or the jumping hard kick. So that's going to be really, really big for him. Giant flip, as you can see, like they did some buffs, right? I think they also buffed the tire. Am I wrong about that? Yeah. So they increased the follow-up damage 70 to 90. That's a big deal. Reduced second follow-up attack, knockback distance. That's good. 20 frames recovery time on Dynamite Punch. Motion on whiff and block. Adjust the hurt box accordingly. Yeah, all the normal stuff. But the really fun things are the spare tire. Can now be canceled on hit from normal and unique attacks. Entire move reduced from 76 frames to 71. That's really good. They want you to use the tire. They want you to really mess with people with that thing. And I saw some of that recently with Blarlad. Really good GGs. I saw him fight against Luigi, I believe, in a recent Wednesday Night Fights or one of the other tournaments. Very, very good work. So the V timer cost increased from 1,500 to 2,500, only if canceled from EX Dynamite Punch. Very interesting. I think this is because if you ever fight him and he's using V-Trigger 2, which is awesome, it seems like he just has unlimited V-Trigger 2. So I think what they're doing here is they're trying to slow down the amount of times you can use it in a comeback scenario. So that's going to be an L overall for Abigail in a big fashion, he might be up here, maybe even more so nerfed than Dan, because Dan had a low place to start, but Abigail was much higher. So I'd expect that in people's tier charts, you might see that Abigail would go down, just because this is not enough to make up for these hurt boxes at a high level, right? These hurt box changes are definitely going to even out his ability to play footsies. The smart Abigails won't have much problems, but some of the ones that are kind of autopiloty, they might have some difficulty. Okay, so once we're on the L side and we're talking about hurt boxes, we can talk about Menat. Menat has some issues extending her hurt box during moves. So for light punch, medium punch, and also crouching light punch, a lot of these moves, if you look at them, right, boom, 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 these moves have extended hurt boxes during those moves, and therefore she's not looking so good. So I feel like she is definitely going to be here in the loser area, right? A little bit of a loser. In fact, again, because these were the moves that made her so strong, I think that she's a bigger loser because of this, right? That she unfortunately is being punished because she won't be able to do things without consequence. Okay, so we've already gone through nine characters, right? Okay. So let me show you some other things here. Akuma has some really fun buffs. These are very interesting that they did this, but basically he has more combo damage now. I don't understand why they did this, but they did, and I think that's awesome. I think honestly, V-Trigger 2 doesn't ever get used. Now with the combo limit and things like that, more people would play Akuma, and it's more fun. Because when you think about balance, sometimes you want to balance for tournament, and sometimes you want to balance for fun. And I think that you're going to have a lot more fun with some of these long combos, right? You can't have Kage be the only one who can do these fun things. So Akuma has these combinations of V-Trigger cancels, and with the increased combo limit, you're going to see long combos in the corner with a lot of big numbers, flashy stuff that Akuma can do, because you don't need to always do the optimal. You don't always need to do Raging Demon. Sometimes you want to do a little bit of V-Trigger too. So in my opinion, that's a buff. When I look at this other stuff here, Alter when enhanced version, that's fine. All this stuff is completely normal. It's completely fine. Like, I think this stuff is really what you want to see from Akuma. So in my opinion, that's a good. So he is buffed, but again, not in a tournament context. I think that he's been buffed in a very specific quality of life or fun context. Like, I think that is where he's sitting. So wherever the hell he's sitting inside this chart, I cannot see him. Where are you? Right here. So I think that he's been buffed a bit, but not in a way that like makes people scared of him. He was already pretty good already. You know what I'm saying? Think about Urien. Oh my God. Who got painfully hurt this time around? It was definitely Urien. I played some matches recently with Slavic Gold, and I could not believe the things I was whiff punishing, the damage I was doing to Urien in neutral. Why? Because Urien's neutral has changed so much from just a couple changes. He's already been adjusted earlier, and then he got adjusted again. So when you see this, it doesn't see that scary, right? Like, you're like, okay, like whatever. If you look at this right here, there's increased recovery time from 17 to 21. This is huge. This is huge. And extended the hurt box during recovery. Now, I have been able to whiff punish this thing like it was nothing. It's never been like that. I've always kind of swung at it thinking that I could do it. And then, you get it sometimes maybe. But because they extended the hurt box, I'm getting it so consistently when they whiff down medium kick, because it's such a good button. There aren't that many buttons that are this good, and people ignore them. Like, I remember trying to explain to a friend of mine in the fighting game community who played Vega, for example, and Vega has a +2 crouching medium kick. And they just would not use that. I mean, look at the button. And they're like, oh, well, it doesn't cancel anything. Oh, it doesn't do this and this and this. It dictates the ground game. It dictates the ground game. It allows you to get your opponent to do something else that's outside of just using your claw ranges, right? It's that sweet spot. Like, because he has that button, he has so many more opportunities in between things. So it's just an idea, right? And so for Urien, for him to lose for him to have an increased risk, let's say that, for crouching medium kick, I think that's just huge for him, period. Same thing here, even though it said change mid-air hitbox timing from the 3rd frame to the 4th frame. This is a big deal. Basically, people would try to do People will try to use headbutt to escape throws, and this will help stop that situation. At least that's what I thought this means. Sometimes the language here doesn't make sense. Like, just say what you're really changing, you know? So crouching medium kick EX tackle will low risk on guard and risk. That's this was like since the character came out. Hello? Since these moves tend to be used to mid to long range, we've increased their risk if their hits don't land. Right? So decrease pushback on second block. So yeah, they would do a chariot tackle and then you would just be afraid for your life. Now you're able to be so close to them that you're actually able to take your turn back, which is what you really want. You don't want to get shimmied after they use a -2 move mid-screen. That's not fair. That's not fun. Okay, let's talk about our boy Gill. He got some quality of life changes. Gill was able to get something that I think is really, like, as a person who plays Gill, even though it hurts me, I love playing Gill, but some of the things that don't make sense about his character design were addressed in this field. So you might see this whole paragraph here. Maybe you don't know what it says, but I'll tell you what it means. Anytime you hit a retribution combo, they're calling it anti-type. Basically, if they're on fire and you do an ice move, they burst a little bit. And then because of that, you get critical gauge. That has never happened before. You get increased critical gauge. So you get that and the regular critical gauge for doing the move. So when you activate the move, your bar goes up. And then when you hit them with the move, your bar spikes up again. So therefore, when you're doing these combos and just to get some momentum on somebody, you don't have really good Oki with Gill, honestly, because people can back roll everything. And to do some of the big combos, you have to use meter. You have to put them in the retribution system, right? Especially with V-Trigger 1. And so now you're seeing the opportunity for you to get more critical art, which means more retribution, which means more critical art. So then you're going to be on a little bit higher plane. Now, is this going to take him out of the dumpster, right? Is he like now all of a sudden going to be top 5, top 10, top 13? No, but you will see more consistent play from those who are using the retribution system because we don't have the crush counter system. It makes sense. Also, this is really cool. This is just extra, right? EX Moonsault Knee Drop. It grants invincibility to mid-air attacks from frames 5 to 12, so you can just literally use it to anti-air. And it's adjusted so the character positioning will not cause command inputs to reverse upon hitting the opponent. Yeah, I know exactly what that is like, and that is terrible. All that really means is when you're in front, you're going to be in front, and when you're in back, you're going to be in back, right? You're not going to get any confusion, any kind of mistakes in the inputs, so that's great to hear for Gill. That's great to see for this champion, right? This character. Untouched. Is that true? Let's double check that. On my notes, I think I have him as untouched. Let's see. Let's talk about Rashid. Rashid got a quality of life negative. So for him, he can no longer do his EX. For certain characters and certain situations, his EX will no longer cross up after it's on block. Awesome. Now everybody can consistently punish him when he tries to use that as an escape tool versus a combo tool or an actual hit tool, right? He has some kind of penalty for that. So that's going to be great. Let's talk about Birdie. Birdie's adjustments. We're fixing bugs that existed, right? This is like kind of like, it's good that they're actually acknowledging that he had some bugs, just like we're going to get to Ken in a minute. But basically, when you're looking at some of these guys, you might tell yourself, like, why are these things even happening, right? Armor breaking properties weren't applied. Abigail couldn't be hit the second time if the first hit landed. What? Fix an issue with the chains behave abnormally after successive V-shift screen effects on specific timing. This is just like stuff that, like, if you're a Birdie main, you know exactly what this is telling you. And if you're everybody else, you have to be this person in this situation to even know what the heck this is. So Birdie basically got buffed in the most boring way possible. He got bug fixes, right? He got bug fixes. Cody was also buffed using his knife. If you can look at this, you'll see that he was updated just a little bit with some things that people have been wanting for a long time. V-Trigger 1's Crouching Light Punch, that's the one where he has the knife. He brings a knife to a fist fight. They shortened the startup from 5 frames to 4 frames, which is great because they basically made it so he can't defend himself. And it reduced the entire move by 1 frame. That's pretty good. And it reduced recovery time by 6 frames for V-Trigger 1 when the V-Trigger remains. So that means they move in sooner, and so therefore you can use more of your meter. That is a big positive for Cody. Let's talk about Alex. Alex got some, in my opinion, minor changes. So it changed the movement value before startup, making it difficult to leap over an opponent at close range. Have you ever done EX stun gun headbutt or quote unquote EX head crush and just literally fly over them, this will stop some of that. So before startup, so if you're trying to like get to these guys really close up, when you do the move, you can stay real close. And V skill 2 light air stampede made it harder to leap over the opponent when canceling from another move. Again, another thing where like it just randomly is leading over and it's just changing the quote unquote movement value and weighted collision. Yeah, not that exciting of a change, but hey, it's right there. It's a positive thing. I think G got buffed again, so I want to put him up here where he deserves. Let's see here. I think G got a substantial buff in my opinion. A lot of his stuff here is really important. New combos came out for G. That's why we haven't really come out with a guide for G yet. Because I think it's a good time now that I think he won't be changed again, but they keep changing him just a little bit. So some cool things I like is they have increased knockback time on mid-air hits. So if you're fighting Rose and you're trying to do an EXG spin kick, imagine that you're going to have increased advantage from that. I think that's going to be good, and also can lend itself to maybe a different kind of juggle that you can do if you're actually using it to catch someone in the air. Presidentiality level 3, so it changed special moves to be equivalent to level 2 when activated on light or medium, so that's going to be very good. They also did something with V trigger 2, which I think is great. So the V timer cost decreased from 1500 to 1000. This is big for when you actually want to use this like V trigger 2 explosion attack, right? Anytime they lower the V timer cost, that means you get more opportunities to use it. Because in comparison to V-Trigger 1, why would you ever pick V-Trigger 2? Here's the reason. V-Timer cost being decreased by 500 means more time to use G-Explosion, more opportunities for you to use it, therefore more fun, and also more viability. So that's very good. Other things, of course, right, they increased the cancel windows for these. I think that's great. And they changed effect immediately after activation for G-Burst. So let me just read what they're trying to say, because I think that matters too. They fixed an issue where canceling level 3 under hit became difficult to land EX spin hits. That makes sense. Also, existing level 3 special moves can only be activated using the heavy button, which will take some getting used to. But you'll be able to carry out greater variety moves. So what this means is that you can use level 2 moves and level 3 moves. Level 2 moves being lights and mediums, and level 3 moves being hard button. That's great, because again, they said it and it makes sense. You'll be able to carry out a greater variety of moves than ever before. So what's really interesting about G and what it makes him very unique is that since he has different levels, you got to remember the different properties of the moves that you get. And so when you turn into level 3, it kind of like levels everything to 3. But what if you wanted to have your level 2 move and your level 3 move for different reasons? Well, there you go. He got a buff where he's able to use those in the way that he wants to use them. So I think that's great. And also shows like the difference between those buttons, because I think before it wasn't like that. It was very different. Everything was level 3. Very different impact. Very different situation. Let's talk about a big winner, which is Ken. Ken has a lot of things to say about himself, okay? He has some reduced hit back on crouching medium punch. That is huge for both when you want to cancel or just trying to stay in pressure. I think his crouching medium punch must have led him to be a little bit further than he needed to be when his style is to be up close. So I think that's very, very good. I think that they seem like they wanted to ensure that he could stay in a bit more. So again, like crouching medium kick, reduce hit back, crouching hard punch, because basically his buttons would like make it so he would not be up close like where you think he should be. Standing hard kick, I've already experienced this when I fought against Sero. There's reduced knockback distance on crush counter. There's increased knockback time on crush counter. I might do some more research for this and give you guys like a real video evidence of what this looks like. So that might be fun. So there should be extended hitbox forward for the hard Shoryuken. I think this will make it easier to do certain kind of DP punishes. I think in general, you don't really see a lot of Ken's really DPing with some of their choices. And I think this will help them not get baited as much. Or maybe it helps them get baited. I don't know. No, I think this will actually just do a better job of dealing with some of these like air-based attacks and stuff like that. Second attack's damage has been increased. So as you can see, in an effort to create more opportunities for combos and counter attacks, you reduce the crouching medium kicks hitback. I love this. I love this so much. I think this is going to be situational. It'll depend on like how you want to use it, but I think you might be able to actually use it as a anti-air from further away. So that's going to be really good. So in my opinion, Ken's going to be much better. You know, look out for that. Second attack's damage will increase from 30 to 50 when the first attack doesn't hit. This is really nice. Light Tatsumaki Senpu. Second attack's damage has been increased from 30 to 50. So normally the first hit is going to be 30. Like say they wake up with it. Now, if you didn't hit the first hit, but then you hit the second hit, it's going to be 50 damage. Very, very cool. I like that. It's kind of like a small buff. Appreciate that. That's good. So for Lucia, we're looking at somebody who needed some touching up. And very obviously, from this huge list, you can tell that she needed some touching up. A lot of this stuff is going to be really cool quality of life stuff. So quality of life stuff, we're talking character central axis now remains stationary in the first frame. Hurricane Spinner, it's sped up to these frames. I think that's really good. And the startup of the rear attack. What this means is you're going to be able to hit that second hit a bit faster, like when it comes from the rear. So I think that's going to be good. I don't know what this specifically does. Maybe makes it so from 2 frames to 5 frames. So that might actually mean that you don't get to beat up cross-ups like that as much. So they're trying to change how that might work. I'll have to test that. That's something that I think is a small adjustment. This is so funny. We've adjusted the range and knockback of various special moves on hit, making it easier to continue Lucia's offense, which had been interrupted regularly. Yeah, if anyone's ever played Lucia, especially if you've seen some of the work here, you can just interrupt her all the time. She doesn't get to just do things. And so they're trying to get her to do things more responsibly. So we'll see how that turns out. So as you can see here, right, they're giving her more Oki. So anytime they're trying to tell you increase final attacks knockback time on hit, or this knockback time on hit, or this knockback time on hit, they're looking for you to be able to get some actual pressure, or Oki as you will, after you have V trigger on. Same thing with EX. You take the risk and you do an EX, they want to give you some Oki. Because Lucia, basically, if you look at some of my videos from a long time ago, she has some meaties that are after medium kick spinner. But when you're in V trigger and say you want to do the DP there, you anti-air there, that's all you get. And the hard part about that is it makes things like Crouching Fierce look more appealing. You don't want a appealing Crouching Fierce. You want to see flashy EX spinners, and you want to be able to execute on those and then put pressure on your opponent right after. So now that's something you can do. And I think that's great. So there's other things too. V-trigger, nubbing needle, decrease pushback on block. Nubbing needle, decrease pushback on block. That's all very good because, again, it's the philosophies to keep her in there. And Hurricane Spinner, increase Lucia's falling speed. So, for example, when you're doing a combo and then in the corner you can do Hurricane Spinner, you'll be able to get more advantage because you're going to be on the ground earlier. I don't know the exact frames of advantage you might be able to get there, but I think that sounds like you'd be at least be able to get a meaty stand medium punch or throw scenario. So that's going to be very good for her. It doesn't make her win everything, but let me tell you, it is more substantial, right? More substantial than the buffs you may have seen from these characters, for sure. I think Lucia is being kind of brought up to the middle, tightening the overall Street Fighter V competitive meta. So that's going to be great. Fang also got a buff here. I mean, God knows what that's going to do for the overall group, but Fang got a buff. So let's look about Fang, right? Fang's buff is really nice. A lot of Fang players are really excited about that. And what that is that, woo, look right here. Fang can now use light Sotoja or Sotoja for combos and counterattacks as its hitbox has been extended. Great. Okay, for Zangief, for some reason they wanted to put Zangief in a pile of trash, and now he's been nerfed the hardest, possibly, maybe the biggest loser of them all in this change. What they wanted to do is get rid of the EX throw invincibility, because he already has a bunch of other choices like V-Shift, which they want him to use. They want him to use all these other tools, and so they literally got rid of the throw invincibility, which was highway robbery. But I guess they just want you to struggle more. Right? If you're Zangief and you have 1 meter, a lot of times people have to attack you to deal with that. But now they just decided, hey, you know what? We're not going to allow you to do that anymore, even though it's been a staple for years at this point. They adjusted to have the same pushback on this other V reversal. Not that big of a deal. This is just a big nerf and just comes out of nowhere. So Zangief players know this best, but basically the pressure, you can start throwing Zangief on wake up a lot more than you ever have. And so that way, when you're in a tick throw situation and they do EX grab, they're actually they're actually in a negative situation, because before they could just do it. Now you will be throwing them if they try to do this attack. So if you're a Zangief player and you've been running into this scenario, watch out. It's a problem. Okay. For Honda, they increased his combo counter on a lot of his headbutts. So if you look here for his headbutt, he got some combo changes. So there is an increased combo limit on the first attack. They increased the combo limit on 100 hand slap, and they increased the combo gain on first attack, which is probably talking about scaling, and this increased combo card start value. So all this is positive again, but it's also true. It made it too simple for E.Honda to entirely overpower these characters who lack ways of countering light sumo headbutt. This is a big problem. And cause significant matchup issues, right? To remedy this, we've adjusted the combo count between sumo headbutt and light normal head slap. And we've additionally lowered the hit count of 100 head slap. I don't know. I think that the count determines the frame data. And so I think this is like a slight nerf, honestly. Yeah, look at this. Like facing characters with few methods, avoiding light sumo headbutt, continually repeating this move at the edge of the screen was low risk and high reward for E.Honda. This is 100% true. So I don't know what this means by increased combo count start value, but usually that means there's more scaling when you combo into it, which means his damage will go down. We've adjusted the combo count between. I don't see what this means. I don't see how this deals with this specific scenario. I think this still makes this scenario terrible. But I think they're saying that light sumo headbutt, light hunter hand slap, EX sumo splash at the edge of the screen with oh yeah, like this. This thing is crazy. Like this whole thing here is they can basically keep poking with sumo headbutt, go for the light hunter hand slap juggle, and then EX sumo smash for like 1 billion damage. So they're going to increase the combo start value so that he could be a little bit more fair. So when I put him here, why did I put him here? He's a loser. And he's going to be down here maybe below Dan because he already had pretty good damage, but now you're not able to like spin the wheel to get it. Okay? So when we're looking through some stuff, I think Rose received no change. No. She did receive 1 change. She's like fixed bugs and problems. So honestly, this isn't a big deal too much, but I did notice this for me. So for you do EX medium soul spark, the problem with the fall speed between light and hard, yeah, it's like I didn't like that. That was so annoying. And for Soul Fortune, it fixed an issue with a white card would be drawn. I never noticed that. Maybe it did happen. And Soul Bind, now this is interesting, fixed a bug that prevented activation during jump animation. I think if you're trying to do it and you mess up, you couldn't jump cancel it. So they kind of fixed it because you should be able to jump cancel that special. No big deal. It's kind of like a quality of life change. Like I've said, a lot of these are quality of life changes, but that also means that they were able to address some things that were, problematic for these characters. Very small buffs, not that big of a deal. Increases critical art gauge. That's a big deal to me because I think a lot of his damage relies on critical art. But there are some people here that are going to say, hey, it's not enough. He's not going to be the best character in the game. He's the worst Shoto. Yeah, maybe. But I mean, come on, man. Like, someone has to be the worst Shoto, and I have to believe it's Dan. If you count Dan as a Shotokan. If you don't count Dan as a Shotokan, I mean, Ryu versus Kage, maybe they're closer than they need to be, or Ryu's just better. But you can't expect like Street Fighter 4 Evil Ryu. This is Kage with the good fangs. And Kage with the good fangs, he's not supposed to be top tier. So as we go through here, Sakura, they made a small update to her V-Skill 1 so that it's actually be usable. And so they changed this a little bit. I think that's great. So let me put this up here. I think that's a really good move. If you guys are thinking that I'm wrong about this in any way, let me know. But in general, I think when it comes to small buffs, I would like to place them here. They basically tried to make Kolin's V-Trigger 1 her V-Trigger 2. So guess what? She can step forward immediately after activation. Great. So that means you can follow the ice, maybe more corner combo. Pretty cool. And then here it apparently there was some crazy bug that I'd never heard about, which is about absolute zero. If you randomly try to dash during it, it would like freeze up your ability to jump. That's crazy. So in my opinion, that's a buff, although minor, right? They had made some other changes to her, which I think were good in the previous patch that we did not cover. But this is definitely a positive for Kolin. Okay, let's talk about Ibuki. So Ibuki, V-Skill 2 VGauge-Vgain from 40 to 60. Like we talked about for Sagat, those changes make updates or make differences in the long-term use of the character over several games, right? More V skill use leads to more V meter, which leads to more V trigger. And that means everything you like about playing Street Fighter V, comebacks, V trigger, that's what that powers up. And the frame advantage on block from moving a throw portion from +2 to +3. I think what they're trying to do here is just give them more advantage. So for the Horokudama, which is that bomb, the frame advantage of the move's throwing portion has been changed so that it can be used in a series of attacks that are difficult to avoid, such as a series of links, backdashes, and V shifts. So they want this dynamic scenario coming from the bomb where someone tries to escape by getting the frame advantage, then you anticipate the frame advantage and you do more. By giving her just one more frame, it makes V-Trigger 1 that much more scary for the advanced attacker. Very cool work. Very cool update for Ibuki. That's a plus. That's a W. It's a viable W too. I actually think it's more relevant to her as a character than others, right? So let's talk about Seth, right? If you guys are joining us for the first time, let me just show you where we're at. We're talking about winners and losers for the overall tier list for this game. You know, where are we? How are people doing after the patch notes and whatnot? How am I seeing the changes? And overall, where are we sitting with the characters? Well, spoiler, right now I'm feeling like there are just so many buffs going on for the characters. What that means is they decided with this update to make more buffs than there were nerfs. And that specific change, that specific influence really helps the life of the game and people's impression. And the fact that they made all these changes and then committed to a 22-page overview of these changes really signals an update, a change to how they want to manage the community going forward. And so Capcom has definitely made efforts to do that, and I really like that. So R.Mika here, when you're looking at R.Mika and you're thinking about like what do you need to do here. So when you talk about R.Mika here, oh, thanks. That's good to know. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So for R.Mika, her stuff right here is really important. Like they extended the hit. So let's just read what they say, because anytime they're going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. 7 rows of changes, right? That must mean they have something they want to do. Because honestly, R.Mika, outside of me personally having trouble with her, who is really having trouble with this character in 2021 at the highest level? Not too many people. Not too many people. And her V-Trigger 2 is like a joke. So with these changes, I think their goal was to make V-Trigger 2 a little bit better. So as you can see, one of the major changes for this, for Mika, was the timing of Nadeshiko's disappearance has been accelerated, and the time needed until the special move version becomes available was reduced. That's really good, because a lot of times it felt like she would activate it and then you're just like, well, when is it coming? Is it coming now? Like, I have no idea. V-Trigger 1 is way scarier. Nobody uses V-Trigger 2. It's like a meme V-Trigger. Like, if you feel like you can win without using V-Trigger, basically. It's there, but who cares, right? And so that's changed a lot. I think that's great. Other things here, like, it's kind of cool that this has screen now darkens. That's not a competitive buff, but that sounds pretty cool. They added some zoom ins on some things too recently, so that's great. So jumping medium punch. So let's see what they're trying to say, right? Like what they're trying to say is there are no major changes, so the character feels the same. I think it's just like trying to get V-Trigger 2 off the ground or V-Skill 2 off the ground, like mostly just V-Trigger 2. Also, this is the movement calling Nadeshiko now has a counterable box that lasts until the end of the movement. Whatever that means. I don't even understand what that truly means. But everything else here, this is just normal stuff. She got some buffs, but not in a meaningful way, right? So again, when she got buffs, but not in a truly meaningful way, in my opinion, she's a little bit lower here on the winner and loser side of this. And again, if it's your first time, don't have it be your last time. This is winners and losers today. Talking about where we feel the characters are from the patch, and also how major their buffs were. So you can go to each character that we've talked about and you can see what we said, but essentially there wasn't too many things where these characters like this. Oh my gosh, I put Seth here, but did not discuss Seth, did I? I feel like I did not actually discuss Seth. Let's discuss Seth real quick. So Seth got another page of buffs after already being nerfed. Already got another page of buffs after being nerfed. Crazy, right? So the biggest change is Tandon Engine. I was super happy to watch these changes where you're able to do target combo into V skill 1, take that V skill 1, and then you gain V gauge, right? You have additional V gauge, which is great because I love using V skill 1 a lot. And the frame advantage on hit for when they get pulled in is +3. So then you can do another target combo into not a target combo. You can do an easy combo confirm after that into an EX and get a little bit more increased corner carry and maybe even meter build. I think that's great for the character. It reduced the distance opponent is pulled on hit. Now this is very interesting because of the +3 frames. I think sometimes I would hit this character and they would be pulled in a little bit, like a lot, and sometimes it became kind of like a crutch. And so I think that it's very good that there's an opportunity here for like a buff nerf type of thing. I think that reducing this distance is a bit of a slight nerf, but everything else is positive. That's really good. Also here, extended hitbox forward for V skill 1. I think that's really good again because I think that needed it because of the risk reward there. So if they increase the hitbox so then you can grab it, it also means like it's cool that it doesn't go as far. Increase distance travel forward while attacking. So I think that's pretty cool. Change active frames from 5 to 9. That's also very cool. Sometimes I feel like it would whiff. It's very interesting that they would buff V skill 1. I actually thought V skill 1 was pretty strong, but nothing compared to V skill 2, right? V skill 2 is like the don't have to think about it V skill. So good that V skill 1 is going to be more usable in the future. Okay. V trigger 2, they have changed to automatically shift to V10 and explode upon disappearing. I like this change because it makes it more accessible for more players. That's very good. Fix an issue where tandem maneuver disappeared in certain situations. Also very good quality of life. This is the real V trigger. If you're a real Seth main, you want to do Seth without with the cool stuff. This is the cool stuff. This is the stuff that will break the ceiling of skill there. While V trigger 1, it's just good. It's just good. You can confirm off of everything. It's great. So, but V trigger 2 is the long time investment. Spend more time with it, get more out of it. So lastly, annihilate sword. Extend the hitbox upward when canceled into from jumping medium. Executed from cruel disaster. I don't even know what the point of that is. We noticed that Annihilate smaller hitbox made it easy to whiff in combos. Yes, okay. I know what that means. Yeah. That has happened to me before. Where like all of a sudden you can't juggle. So you'll have them in a corner and then you try to juggle it or something and then it drops, right? I can't simulate that, but that is a problem for Seth and I think that that is a good thing to be fixed. But honestly, because of what other characters were nerfed, so for example, Cammy was nerfed. Because Cammy was nerfed, Seth is, again, top 1, I think. Cammy still could be top 2. I mean, it's not like she really got nerfed, but yeah. Nash is now forward meaning kick. Don't even call him Nash anymore. Now he's forward Sobat. Everyone's been posting memes about how good his forward Sobat is. We just played someone here on the channel who was using Nash in that way, and we punished him for it. But I will tell you, it's going to cause a lot of problems for people because it's basically better than his meaning kick scythe because it's less negative on block and it's just annoying. And now you can cancel off a V trigger. And big surprise, that's exactly what the notes say. But if you look at this, jumping Sobat, he got a lot of changes, man. Like his meaning kick active frames got increased. His recovery time got better and it was already pretty good. His standing light kick got better again. Frame advantage got hit was better. Rapid kick, his target combo got better again. Combo count game on sonic booms have gone down. So when you get a sonic boom combo, you don't just nerf yourself into the ground. So his damage has definitely gone up. His tragedy assault has gone up again. Very, very good. And his bullet clear, which is V skill 1, you get more pressure from it too now that you can cancel. So when you're looking at this list, when you're looking at the list of changes here, is there enough to make him start changing in competitive? I think so. You might see Infiltration pick him up from Korea because he already played him before, and some of these changes are like really good. Like these are good changes. The jumping Sobat is so good that I think that makes a difference. Now, and the combo count gain, that's a big deal for combos that might start with EX or regular Sonic Boom. It doesn't say EX, but I would assume it would be similar. And then these frame advantages on block, I mean, this is making it less good, but the recovery time here and then the knocks the opponent down instead of ground and hit for stun, that's really good. I think that there is a lot of value here. It just seems like they try to buff him a little bit, but not too much. They don't want to make the game have people just run away from you all the time, even though the biggest winner of this entire thing should be Dhalsim, right? I feel like Dhalsim's up there. But Nash himself, it feels like they're trying to pump life into the character. Too often is Nash listed as the worst character in the game. And so for us to see him get this many changes, this is Capcom admitting, yeah, man, we kind of need to fix him, but we don't want to fix him like season 1. We want to make him more or less viable. So he's a big old winner. Big old winner. And the rest of us are losers for having to deal with this guy. I'll definitely play a little bit of Nash. I'd love to play him. Maybe I can play him in the round table on Saturday. Because I used to play him for like an entire year, the first year the game came out. But people might be pretty pissed because look at this. You can now cancel V-Trigger 1 and V-Trigger 2 off a Sobot, man. That's like the craziest like change. I think that's great. So I think that Nash might be used more, but I couldn't guarantee how much more. But I would say that players like Infiltration might have a counter pick or a specific scenario they like to use him on, because I've seen MOV and other players abuse Nash and just jumping Sobot because people have not been used to having to care about it. So it's a thing. It's there. It's an item. Also, the frame advantage on hit on crouching medium kick is really where your money's at, because it used to be 0, which is nuts, by the way. Like you're trying to like keep someone away from you and you really can't. And now with the 4 frames, that's a big deal. You can imagine you hit a counter hit crouching medium kick while someone's trying to walk into you, right? Now all of a sudden you're doing a jumping Sobot or you're doing a forward hard kick, hoping to catch the next thing. I think that's great. I think it's also pretty nuts. If he gets a counter hit, I imagine the setups that you could do where maybe crouching medium kick, which I believe is 8 frames, can be used as a frame trap. And now all of a sudden you're like +6 on hit. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so I'd love to see how Nash evolves, but definitely I picture him realistically flying up the tier list from the bottom. Maybe he'll be a top 25 character instead of top 40. And so I think that is possible. Also, very possible that he's able to counterpick specific matches where Nash had a slight advantage, but you'd rather pick somebody else. I think Nash now has the tools necessary to climb that ladder, maybe be a contender for top 25, maybe in the highest level top 20, or just a very specific counterpick. That's what the updates from May 18th have done to Nash. Not free. Blanka, though, Blanka had some changes, and I know we have Tim in the chat in case he wants to weigh in on it, but to me, it looked like these were all positive changes. Crouching hard punch, reduced knockback distance on crush counter. You can be able to do a lot more different things with that. I'm assuming you can do a lot more things with that because of the distance. And lowered the counter combo count start value of V-Trigger 1 because nobody uses V-Trigger 1 because why? So I think that's awesome that they actually have that. Same thing, they're trying to buff V-Trigger 1 so more people might actually use it. That would be cool. No idea if that would be the best one because honestly V-Trigger 2 outshines V-Trigger 1 by such a large magnitude that you'd wonder how that would even make sense. So that's how that is. But, winners and losers, I think that overall, there was nothing but positive things for Blanka, and they really want V-Trigger 1 to be used. So if you're a big Blanka V-Trigger 1 fan and you've been playing that character for a bit, you are definitely getting some positivity. So Tim in chat is saying Crouch Fierce is the most notable buff. Off crush counter, you can legit dash Oki. Exactly, that's what I was thinking you could do. And it combos into GSR. I think that's like Golden Shave Roll when it never did before. That's really good. Second thing means he gets more combo roots off V-Trigger 1 and it won't evaporate as quickly. Exactly. So everything you're saying is like V-Trigger 1. I like V-Trigger 1 Blanka because maybe I'm a little lame. But I think that V-Trigger 1 Blanka was my favorite to play. And I like it when you can get EX meters. You can use EX moves without using EX meter. So like I like Lucia V-Trigger 1, for example. And so for Blanka, it's the same. Yeah, I didn't think so either for dynamic rolling critical art. I think they were just trying to make it like historically accurate. You want to be able to like anti-air when you cancel into dynamic rolling, I guess. V-Trigger 1 is used for 20%, so maybe it's used for 25% of matchups now, right? I think V-Trigger 2 is just so much better, but maybe like I said, some of these changes feel like they're good for the game, but not for the meta. Like it has nothing to do with the meta, but it has everything to do with the game. Where the game is just better because you have more choices you can make. Some quality of life updates like Sagat, Gill, Falke, Ibuki, G. Or G got a buff. Lucia, Ken, all these guys got some quality of life stuff. Even Cody, for example, even Cody's 4-frame update to his knife makes him a different character when he's in V-Trigger 1. And before, why would you pick V-Trigger 1 when you can just be like okie doking people in V-Trigger 2, right? That's a big deal. Let me finish this off. Zeku, I am confident there's no more changes for Zeku. Sonic Fox will kick my butt. If he uses Fang, he'll be able to counterpick me. I'll say that. But I doubt it. I have a lot of respect for Sonic Fox. I would say it would be competitive. And I like Sonic Fox. And I like Sonic Fox. So guys, again, let's count the numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 23 characters were given, in my opinion, buffs, quality of life changes, bug fixes. That's really good. Then when you look at this, 9 characters were nerfed at all different levels, right? Dan was nerfed pretty hard. Menat was nerfed pretty hard. No, Dan was nerfed in the middle, in my opinion. Menat, Abigail, Urien, and especially Zangief were nerfed hard. E.Honda was like scaling nerf. Balrog was like slapped on the wrist. Cammy's more like a wrist thing. And Rashid is like, they don't even want to touch that guy. They want to keep him right where he is. And so other than that, you have Ed, Guile, Karen, Poison, M. Bison, Vega, Jury, Ryu, Chun-Li, Zeku, completely untouched by the overall changes, which doesn't mean they're scot-free yet. Because of the fact that we're getting these updates, it feels like every 3 months, it's possible that we might get more changes, and there are more changes to come for Ed, Karen, Poison, Vega, Jury, what have you. Don't give up on this game because it feels like Capcom hasn't given up on us, and they're making changes as we go along. Real special for me, this was the winners and losers of May's 2021 patch for Street Fighter V.